background noise, y'all. I tell you. All right, all right. Get me in my chair, right? You know, the biggest misconception that people have about the work that I do is that they think that it's optional or they think it's not for them. And so, for those of you who have a calling, for those of you who have a mission, a ministry, a mission, you know what your purpose is in life. Either you knew it when you were older, you had an experience and was enlightened. Either way, the work that I do is for you. For those of you who may have been following me, you know that I talk a lot about self-care, and everything. And pretty much there are three things that had pretty much, I'm going to say, kicked the door wide open for this self-care journey. It was a breakup in which I cried for 40 days and 40 nights. It was my parents' medical mayhem, medical journey, medical mishaps, um, even sometimes medical mystery too. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking about that lately. And pretty much just by working in the mental health field in and of itself, what I've seen, is like, what does a person who's experiencing homelessness and a person who is a CEO, what do they have in common? It's like the main thing they have in common is the emotional expression, that too, but emotional distress. And what about you? For those of you who have a calling on your life, there's so much that's on your table, and you really think that self-care is not for you. Whew, I tell you. But one thing I will say, y'all, is that in order for you to lead, it takes capacity for you to care for yourself. Because if you are mentally drained, have decision fatigue, and all of that, you are not able, to be honest, to really lead with confidence. Because your energy is low. You try and you show up and you may do a good job, but then you're completely drained. And what's the use of continuing to blame, to drain yourself? Yeah, you're doing a good job, and I'm not taking that away from you. But what I am saying too is that what's the use of doing that where you're drained, you're overworking yourself, and then you have a heart attack or stroke, something that may could have been prevented, and then someone has to take care of you. And then where does all that work go? I remember, and I do truly believe that this is a good story. I remember I was listening to Oprah's podcast, and this was many years ago when I was listening to it more actively than I do now. I don't remember the guy name, but if I remember correctly, he was an NFL player who was riding his motorcycle, and then he ended up getting on an accident. I mean, getting on an accident. He ended up getting into an accident. And so when he got into the accident, of course, I mean, he was like, just, he wasn't paralyzed, but he had to have rehab. He wasn't the same person that he was before. How did people remember him? People only remember the NFL. They did not remember what he had to go through. And it was like years. I mean, let's say a few years later, People, and you could say, oh, well, that's good, but that was not where he was at. People did not see the struggle that he had, and he was depressed, and he was even on the verge of, unaliving himself. And so when he was going through all of that, it's kind of like, where was everybody else? But the thing is, when people saw him, they say, oh, yeah, I remember you in the NFL and everything. My whole point of that is you're like, Sharon, what does that have to do with, taking care of yourself? He was taking care of himself once he got into the accident for rehab. But people don't see that part. They only saw the NFL player. They didn't see the person that he came to be, of all the work that he put in. And he had to do that for himself. So that is what I am telling you. Self-care isn't just about the bubble baths and you're feeling good. It is about the work that you do when it comes to your identity of not leaving yourself behind. Because when you leave yourself behind, sometimes you get left behind. And yes, 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 again, I am not taking anything away from you of the things that you do where you may motivate someone, you may inspire someone, you may be the very reason that someone may not unalive themselves. And that is great. That is wonderful. But I want you to be able to have the capacity to continue to do that. Because what is the use of doing all of that and then you fall out and then someone has to take care of you? That is what I'm getting at. Meaning, if it can be preventable. And so when it comes to self-care as an entrepreneur, it's about you taking care of yourself from head to toe. But let me regress. Because I can talk about this all day long, y'all. But the main thing is, you think that this is not for you, or think that it doesn't apply to you, or think that it is optional and it's not. You're doing it every day anyway. But we need to make sure that you are intentionally in taking care of yourself. Like when it comes to how you think about yourself, how do you see yourself? What are the words that you are using? Even when it comes in your business, are you saying you can't do this? We all remember the story of the little engine that could. What are you saying? Because when it comes to even your calling, because even though you may have a calling, you may have a message, and people don't always talk about, I kind of call it the infrastructure that you have to put in place, what goes on in the background, the business side of just your message. You say, oh, I just want to let people know. It takes more than that. And it's just part of it. And so when it comes to you taking care of yourself, I just cannot tell you how important that is. And it is not, oh, you know what example I'm going to use? In that, Emma, Bruce Willis' wife. We know how Bruce Willis is and what he's dealing with right now. And then his wife had to make the decision of how he was going to be cared for. Was it going to be inside the home or outside the home? And they have 2 young children. And she decided that the best way for her to take care of him and the 2 children is to have care outside of the home. And granted, they have the means to have a really great setup. Everyone doesn't have that. But that is not the point. The point is that she had to make a decision, because if she was going to try and do it in home, even with the resources that she have, one thing that I will tell you, and I've seen it and I've experienced it, myself when it came to my parents is that even if you have in-home care, sometimes that's not enough. It doesn't mean that you don't take, it doesn't mean that you don't care about the person, but sometimes just for the sake of, oh yeah, of course I'm going to take care of, my spouse or my family member inside my home because that's the thing to do. But sometimes you're not able to do that. I know someone else in which when it came to other family members, she brought other family members inside her home. But one thing that I will tell you, even though it was a lot of work and things like that, but what I will say, when someone um is experiencing, the signs and symptoms of dementia, anything on that continuum, that is not easy when someone is inside your home. So my point in bringing up Emma is that just because you can, should you? Because it would look good. Like, oh yeah, she did all of that. But she has two young children. And then even the impact that that has on them with the different, and again, I don't know what goes on inside. So basically what I'm saying now is generally what happens to an individual when they have some form of dementia when it comes to different mood swings and then different outbursts and different behavior things that can happen that can be traumatizing for a child. And then we're supposed to have the children, oh well, your parent is just like this, and so therefore you should understand. Yeah, they can understand when they are older as adults, but at that precious age, why expose them to that? And then the wear and tear, the emotional toll that it has on her. And that's what I'm talking about. Even when it comes to our calling, sometimes it's kind of like, oh, y'all, I'd be glad when I be getting these downloads, these downloads, these downloads. Um, Sometimes you forget. I said it the other day. When it comes to your calling isn't just for other people, it's for you too. So meaning that there's a transformation for you. So there's a transformation for you to take care of yourself. Anyway. Okay. The main two things I really want you all to remember when it comes to taking care of yourself, that is to be mindful and intentional with your words. This is where affirmations come into play. This is where declarations and decrees come into play. This is where praying comes into play. The words that you use really does matter. We know that words have life and death, and we don't want put out there, we want life for you, but we don't want death for you. And so your words are very intentional when it comes to you and when it comes to your calling, whether your calling is quote unquote part-time or you're a full-time entrepreneur. Your words matter. Be mindful of what you say. Be mindful of how you look. Because even if you say that, again, we cannot help every single person that even comes across us. We're not able to do that. So do not set yourself up to do that because you will decrease your capacity. And you need your capacity for those. Sometimes we may not always know who our audience is or who the very person we're supposed to help. But we want you to have the energy to be able to do that. The other thing is, I want you to be intentional about is your actions. When it comes to the four pillars of self-care, one of them is about movement and action. Movement in your body, breathing, and then to be intentional with your actions. And you can put action as in moving and action as in, breathing, but action also in having aligned actions. And so also ensuring that your actions are aligned with your words are aligned with your actions. Because sometimes, and even I have to check myself, like, wait a minute, are my actions are in alignment with my calling? But if you are a vessel, how are you taking care of your vessel? This is why self-care is for you. It's how you're caring for yourself so you can have the capacity for your calling. You can have the energy for your calling. You can have clarity for your calling. And all of this isn't just just to be feeling good. I feel so good. I'm doing the work. No, this is so that you can really feel good in doing the work. You can have the capacity in doing the work. You can have the energy in doing the work. Again, you can have the confidence, the courage, the capacity to care for yourself. Because you're not able to care for yourself, what are you to do? The other reason I want you to be intentional about your actions, this is so that you can nurture your nervous system, retrain your recondition your nervous system. That means unresolved issues, wounds, the triggers that it's reacting to, whatever is activating you, and so that you can retrain your nervous system to have the capacity for your calling. Because what's the use of you not having the capacity, you hanging on with the strain, and you're not taking care of yourself? Because when you are not, if you are not intentional about your own self-care, this is where burnout comes into play. You're reacting instead of responding. You lose connection with yourself. That's a big one. Again, it's so that you can have capacity, so you can have connection, so you can care for yourself as you are going about the world for your calling. And this is not just so that you can feel good, like, oh, I got self-care, that too. But we want you to be able to recalibrate your nervous system so that you're not always triggered. You're not always activated, but if you are, you don't take it personal and you know how to stay grounded. You know how to stay grounded and centered when it comes to your personal life and when it comes to business, where you're able to pretty much enforce your own principles and your values and set those boundaries and limits when you need to. Because the thing is, to be honest, y'all, when we tired, sometimes we may allow things to pass by. And we don't want that. Not that you need to be, like always on key and no, not that it's always that, but we want you to be healthy and well, to cultivate healthy habits. And being intentional about your self-care is one of the ways that you can do that. And so when you are intentional about your words and you're intentional about your actions, you are by default regulating your nervous system. Now, one thing that I do want to make sure that I say, and I try to say it each and every time, y'all, when it comes to regulating your nervous system, nothing is wrong with you. It's pretty much, it's kind of like, we have that reptile brain, that's part of us always kind of looking for things. It's like, okay, and with our nervous system is there to keep us safe. And then sometimes it kind of works in overdrive, and it has been working in overdrive for a while. Because even for me, in the past few weeks, I'm like, what's going on? And oh, wow, I'm in survivor mode. And sometimes it can take weeks, months, and even years, I want to say, with different levels of survival to pretty much reverse that. But the thing is, when it comes to us regulating our nervous system, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. Yeah, some of us may be a little bit more anxious than others or more sensitive than others, but at the basic level of being human is regulating a nervous system. So that means be mindful with your words. Your own words can help calm you down. Your own words can hype you up. Your own words can be devastating to you. So what words are you using? Be intentional with your actions. What are you doing? Are you working yourself to the bone because of your calling? Only thing I'm saying is just have intentional rest and recovery. That's all. Because the other thing is too, y'all, we really don't know what is going on inside of us. So it serves as a protective layer of the words that you use. Be affirming with yourself. And I always just tell people to breathe so that you can recalibrate. Because of the fact our body really does have a wonderful way sometimes of reversing some things we may not even know what's going on with us. It serves to we don't know like what type of viruses that's inside of us and all of that. But one thing that I will tell you is that by not doing it, there's a cost to pay, because by not doing it, you're not able to play. And so by being intentional about your self-care, because again, the misconception that you may have, like, oh, Sharon's always talking about self-care. Sharon's always talking about, breathing. She's talking about the Take 5 to Thrive Today wellness boosters. Yes, that is for you. Because a lot of times you think because you're walking and talking and you're doing pretty good now, there are people having heart attack. There are people having strokes. There are people having panic attacks, nervous breakdown. And it's because, and even with nervous breakdown, y'all, it's because the nervous system is breaking down because of overload. Because of overload, mental overload, physical overload, even spiritual overload, spiritual warfare. And so, as humans, the standard of taking care of ourselves, let's say the standard is walking 10,000 steps. Now, I don't walk 10,000 steps. And I'm not even sure if I ever had. I may have done it a few times, but it's just not my regular. It's not, I'm all for self-care, but I will say to walk or do something as much as possible. But I'm using that as an example. If that is the standard, and my point is most of us are under there. So what can you do to get up to the standard? Okay, the baseline of us of breathing naturally, but intentional breathing, that's help us to be a little above the baseline, the standard of being humans. And most of us are failing. And so when you're adding something in the pot, it's like, oh, but what can I do? Again, the things that I'm going to say this, and then I will be exiting out. And that sometimes some of the fear that you may have, some of that can be eradicated by regulating your nervous system. You think about it different, you approach it different. I'll leave it like that. But anyway, let me look at my to make sure that I've covered everything. And one of the ways to pretty much, I'm going to say, to stay connected with yourself, to cultivate healthy habits, and to help sustain your capacity is to be inside community. Because outside of that, you won't hear about, you won't get those nudges and those reminders. It's like, oh yeah, on Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is Fortitude Free Rituals, which helps you to regulate your nervous system. It helps with that. And so that's something that you can do. So I invite you into Fortitude and Free Circle so that you can have access to Fortitude and Free Rituals because we can't do this by ourselves. Even though I'm all and I'm pro self-care, there's some areas of it that I need help with. And whether it is a actual circle or something on YouTube or listening to someone, that is how I not just feed myself, but fuel myself as well. And as entrepreneurs, for someone who has a calling, for someone who has a mission, a ministry, a movement, self-care is for you. Being mindful and intentional with your words is self-care. Increasing your capacity to self-care, regulating your nervous system is self-care. All of that is a part of self-care. Getting the courage to do outreach for organizations to people who may need your service. That's a type of self-care too. It really is. It's not just the bubble bath. The bubble bath, that's like the bonus. That's the outcome. And so if you all still have any misconceptions of what I do when it comes to self-care, drop it in, drop your questions or the misconceptions in the comments so that I can do a video about it. I will answer it in a video. And then also, you can send me a DM because we do not want you to have any misconceptions about self-care because we want you to have a capacity to be connected with your calling. And you do that by being intentional with your words and being intentional with your actions so that you can regulate your nervous system. It's not a weakness. It's not about not having a willpower. It's just kind of how our being is set up. So it's taking care of your being. You're the greatest creation that has ever been born. So take care of it so you can have the capacity to be connected, fully connected and healthy and well as you are going about with your calling. So I will see you all next time. And I want to see you all in the circle too. So comment circles so you can regulate your nervous system with Fortitude and Free Rituals. See y'all next time. All right, all right. Oh, you know what, y'all? On here in that. Oh, oh well.